It's Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. Trump hints Biden might be in danger. The White House tells public health officials to shut up. And new border policies are already making a big impact. Next on the AM Update.
This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, he didn't give himself a pardon.
Do we want to vote on these folks on Tuesday or vote on them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Because that's what we're going to do. This can be easy or this can be hard.
The last 24 hours, total apprehensions on the southwest border, 766.
The U.S. government only recognizing two genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. What are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Donald Trump granted his first sit-down interview inside the Oval Office last night to Sean Hannity, where he hinted that Joe Biden, in the midst of his pardons for Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, and his entire family, well, it's kind of odd because he forgot one person.
This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him.
So that is Donald Trump strongly hinting, probably trolling, that Joe Biden might not be immune from any sort of bad action he might have taken over the last 14 years or so, or last 11 years. Those pardons go back to over in the Senate. So far, only a few of Trump's nominees have actually gone through their Senate confirmation processes. Of course, the big headliner would be Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, confirmed by a 99-0 vote. Well, here's John Thune. Again, he is what I would call a rhino, for lack of a better word, or he's a swamp creature. He has still been really consistent since the aftermath of the 2024 election that he's ready to play hardball on behalf of Trump. Here he is on the floor of the Senate just this week telling Democrats we can do it the easy way or the hard way.
I was listening to the chair of the Intelligence Committee just a moment ago talking about this nominee, and I was curious. I asked the Senator from Arkansas, chairman of the Intelligence Committee, what was the vote coming out of committee for Mr. Radcliffe?
The vote was 14-3.
Okay, so 14-3 coming out of the committee. And we've now wasted a whole day where we could have been acting on that nomination. And so really, I think the question before the House is, do we want to vote on these folks on Tuesday or vote on them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Because that's what we're going to do. This can be easy or this can be hard. This is a nominee that came out of the Intelligence Committee 14-3. It is a bipartisan nomination to the Central Intelligence Agency. This is about America's national security interests.
So that is Senator John Thune, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, again threatening Democrats with weekend work if they don't make sure they pass Donald Trump's nominees. That's talking about Radcliffe for CIA director. Well, it's maybe going a little bit slower than John Thune would hope in the Senate, but the executive actions coming out of the White House are coming in hot and heavy, including this one. Amid a deluge of executive actions, the Trump administration has directed federal health agencies to basically shut up, to pause external communication such as regular scientific reports, update to websites and health advisories. According to sources within the agencies, the initial orders were delivered Tuesday to staff at agencies inside the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, including to officials of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the National Institutes of Health, according to the Washington Post, which originally had this story. Translation, the White House is saying, you need to not say a darn word until you have the new sheriffs in town. Whether it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for HHS, whether it's Jay Bhattacharya and Marty Makary, those figures don't say anything until the new bosses are in town. I think that's smart, and it shows a level of detail and planning from the Trump administration. And then there's this. The Justice Department wants federal prosecutors across the country to investigate state or local officials who obstruct immigration enforcement under President Donald Trump's new administration. That's according to a new memo obtained by Fox News. They were the first to get this. In the memo, Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bowe, that's Trump's former defense attorney, outlines interim decisions and policy changes pending the confirmation of Trump's nominee for U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. He said interim changes are necessary February as an initial response to Trump's executive orders regarding three of the most serious threats facing the American people. Those threats, Bo wrote, are cartels and other transnational criminal organizations such as Tren de Aragua, La Mara Salvatrucha, known as MS-13, who are a scourge on society. The memo also said the second threat is brutal and intolerable violent crime by members of these organizations. The third crime that this memo outlines is the fentanyl crisis. So yet again, there's another level of detail of planning. The Justice Department already plans to go after state and local officials. See that as state and local officials in sanctuary states and cities. Again, hitting the ground running. And then there's this. President Donald Trump is swiftly moving forward with his pledge to end the nation's illegal immigration crisis by rolling out plans to deploy additional active duty troops to the southern border. The United States official revealed again to Fox News on Wednesday that the Trump administration's Pentagon is preparing to disperse 1,500 troops to various locations along the U.S.-Mexico border. It's not immediately clear which units will be sent where or where they will be stationed. However, the administration is expected to release a formal announcement later on in the week. In addition to that directive, it's being reported by multiple outlets that U.S. Transportation Command has been told to prepare to use U.S. military aircraft for illegal alien deportation flights. Here is Border Czar Tom Homan with a little bit of a report card on the first 48 to 72 hours of the Trump administration as it pertains to illegal immigration.
Absolutely. Look, the greatest president in my lifetime, he's back. Because in 2 days, last 24 hours, total apprehensions on the southwest border, 766. Compare that to the 10 to 12,000 Biden had at one time. CBP-1 releases, 0. CHNV, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela releases, 0. Total of 766 across the entire southwest border. That is a game changer.
Indeed, it is. This Trump administration, again, if you put together a president, a realistic president in the year of our Lord, 2025, and the country, the United States of America, and you wanted him to be successful, there's not a whole lot more that you could ask for than what we've seen in the first week of the Trump administration. Back to California, the Hughes fire is burning around Lake Castaic, north of Castaic. The blaze broke out shortly before 11 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday amid red flag warnings in the region. Fanned by strong winds, the blaze grew to 5,054 acres, according to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. Areas in and around Lake Castaic extending towards Interstate 5 on the west and south of Sandburg on the north. Again, just the latest wildfire in a bevy of wildfires to hit Southern California that have not gone away over the past 3 or so weeks. Back in Washington, House Speaker Mike Johnson introduced the Fix Our Forests Act. Here is discussing why it's needed.
Two notes real quick about legislation this week. We mentioned the Fix Our Forest Act. Case in point, the reason this is so important is because we see what happened in California. The lack of leadership there. Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom, having mismanaged virtually every aspect of that in preparation. They did not prepare their state or the city or the county for what was to come. There was a 117 million gallon reservoir right outside Pacific Palisades that was left empty for over a year. They did not manage the forest as they were supposed to, and they let forest debris pile up near homes in at-risk areas. All of this was known. They assumed the risk because they advanced their radical political agenda, and now people are paying a heavy price for that. We think that needs to be taken into account going forward. But the bipartisan Fix Our Forest Act will do what the governor of California would not do, and that is restore the health of our forests and make communities more resilient to wildfires.
Coming up next, you'll never guess who was arrested for breaking into NFL quarterback Joe Burrow's home a few weeks ago. Canadian Prime Minister candidate, probably the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, has a masterclass on how to deal with the media asking stupid questions. And there's a guy named Larry Ellison who I think wants to make Minority Report great again. That's next.
You have a shattered window into the bedroom. The bedroom has been ransacked.
That is the 911 call from Joe Burrow's residence. He's Star quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL. 4 Chilean nationals have been arrested for their alleged involvement in the burglary of Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow's home last month. An investigator wrote in a court document that an old LSU shirt and Bengals hat were found in the suspect's SUV, although Burrow, an LSU alum, is not specifically named. One of the suspects also carried a cell phone that matched data from a Hamilton County cell phone tower from the December 9th robbery in Anderson Township. Sergio Cabela, Jordan Sanchez, Bastian Morales, and Alexander Chavez are facing charges of participating in a criminal gang, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, obstructing official businesses, and possession of criminal tools. That's according to WLWT-TV. The court document said the 4 arrests are part of the ongoing investigation involving burglaries of multi-million-dollar homes in multiple states. Before Burrow, Chiefs star Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes each dealt with burglaries in October. The incidents led the NFL to warn players about how professional athletes have been targeted by crime groups, with a South American crime ring alleged to be the perpetrators behind the 2 incidents. Probably the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, was interviewed on Canadian television recently, and he was asked about Trump's new executive order defining man and woman and requiring the federal government to only refer to people as man and woman. Here's how that went, and it's a masterclass.
First day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing 2 genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. I am as people who say cis man. There are people there who, they say they're gender neutral. Well. You are a man, yes. There are people there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only 2?
I'm only aware of 2, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of 2, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone.
That is not the only time Pierre Poilievre, that's the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada and probably the next prime minister of that country. That's not the only time that he's given a masterclass, I think, on this very issue with the media. It's just a brilliant and simple way. Hey, how many genders are there? Crickets, more crickets, and more crickets after that. It's so disarming as well. Hey, how do you feel about the fact that you can only call men men and women women in the United States federal government? Well, is there something else I'm supposed to refer to them as? I mean, you can list them off for me if you want to. And then if they do try to list them off, okay, is that the only? Okay, Z, Zer, are you sure that's the only pronouns there are out there? Because then you hoist them by their own petard. You make them look like the bigot by their own admission for not knowing how many shades of the rainbow there are. Just a masterclass from Pierre Poilievre. And now here's this. Oracle CEO Larry Ellison yesterday had these words about marrying AI technology with mRNA vaccines. Now, he made these comments at the White House after Donald Trump had announced that massive $500 billion investment into AI infrastructure, which is a really big deal. Anytime somebody invests $500 billion of private capital into the United States, I think the President of the United States has a right to make sure that people of his country know that. But here is Oracle CEO Larry Ellison on what he hopes to accomplish with artificial intelligence and mRNA technology.
Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
As well-intentioned as I'm sure Larry Ellison is, maybe this is a passion of his, because maybe he's had multiple people close to him who have tragically passed from cancer or are dealing with cancer. And that's affected him somehow. And so he wants to use his immense wealth to try to find cures for cancer. Okay, giving him the maximum benefit of the doubt here. Just as a general rule, when we're talking about diseases that are by and large caused by environmental and lifestyle factors, trying to cure diseases that are caused by lifestyle choices is just trying to play God, and it's not going to be successful. I mean, I hope it is, but I don't think it's going to be. And then these comments surfaced. Apparently, Larry Ellison wants to make Minority Report, starring Tom Cruise, great again. Here he is talking about artificial intelligence and police.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras. It's AI that's looking at the camera. No. You can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off. It's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. If there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop. A drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. I mean, it's very, very simple.
The only good idea I heard in there was at the very end, and I'm not even sure about that. Yeah, probably not a good idea to have police trying to do high-speed car chases when you could just send a drone. Maybe. And maybe I need to think that through a little bit more. But he just laid out kind of the dystopian backdrop of the movie Minority Report, if you've seen that movie before. Basically, an all-seeing eye that's able to predict future crimes before they're ever committed and arrest people for future crimes that they have not yet committed. That's basically the proto-version, what Larry Ellison is talking about there. So, again, you're going to have your head on a swivel in this era. Is it a good thing, a net benefit for Donald Trump, the White House, to have a lot of very wealthy people who want to do very great things or great things in their own eyes? Is it a net positive to have them on your team? We have to find that out. So, a Minority Report, Larry Ellison, trying to find a utopian cure for cancer. I'm not so sure about that, but again, we'll just have to watch that play out. All right, when we come back for one final segment, it's Air Analysis on the poll of the week. That's next. And finally, Air Analysis, 3 weeks in a row, 3 records set for number of poll respondents for our poll of the week. I asked on Tuesday, after day 1 of the new Trump administration, are you more optimistic, less optimistic, the same or other in the comments? By far and away, the winner is more optimistic with 80%. For most of this poll's run, it was about 2 days that I ran this poll. For most of this poll's run, less optimistic was statistically at 0.0%. 16% said I'm just the same, neither optimistic nor pessimistic, or I'm optimistic or I'm pessimistic, just the same as I was before the inauguration. And let's get to some of your replies. I said, we'll start with me. I said I voted more optimistic, and I was already pretty optimistic, pretty hyped by my curmudgeonly standards before the inauguration and this flooding every zone that we've seen take place this week so far. Caravan DLM says way more optimistic. A right-wing dad says, I'll be more optimistic when legislation is passed to make some of these executive orders permanent and not overturn day one of a new administration. I think that's fair. Let's see. DC says, pleasantly surprised so far. Yeah, I've seen that sentiment too from some people that I see in passing on social media, kind of the circles that we all end up in, that they're optimistic. They're not optimistic, but they are pleasantly surprised as well. Brian Nolan says, I'm worried about losing momentum and not following through. That's always going to be a worry, but so far, the Trump administration has all the momentum. Steve Winden says, I'd love to be optimistic, but we serve a just and righteous God, and we're long overdue for a reckoning. Steve, God bless you, man. That's not how I would see this at all. That is true. We're probably long overdue for a reckoning. This is not how you should view the Trump administration at all. You should see the Trump administration as a second chance, third, fourth, fifth, 66th chance that we don't deserve. Stop with the doomerism. Stop with the doomerism. Stop with the fatalism. That's a very fatalistic take. And far be it from me, the guy who is Mr. Eeyore on a good day, to tell you to stop that. But saying, we serve a just and righteous God, we're long overdue for a reckoning, when all of these good things, righteous things, are rolling forth from the Trump administration, stop with that and get out of here with that, Steve. Steph says, if the job market pick up and corporations start hiring citizens again, I'll put on a MAGA hat. There have been a few times where I've been close to putting on a MAGA hat as well. Maybe I should just take the leap and do so. James Hanning says, I've never been more optimistic. I could probably say the same thing myself. John George says, very cautiously optimistic. Brian Kaczarski says, less optimistic about after hearing the mRNA AI connection in the Project Stargate. I wouldn't let that ruin all optimism. But I'd understand if you... I'm not going to fault you at all for hearing AI and mRNA are getting married and saying, no, not up in here. No, not today. Alarm bells, they are a-ringing. So I don't fault you for that at all, Brian. Fossil Fool says, the constant references to Daddy and King, if Trump ever does anything that is terrible, will just be whitewashed. I have no idea what you think... Not only do I not have any idea, Fossil Fools, what you are communicating, I don't even have any idea what you think you're communicating. Number one, what does constant and the constant references to Daddy and King Trump mean? You didn't bother to actually say who's referring constantly in your words to Trump as Daddy and King. Who is that? So again, Fossil Fools, you're something a little bit more than a fool. You're something else. Nenard. That'll do it for Thursday. Ask or tell me anything tomorrow. Look for the pinned tweet at the top of the X profile at Real AM Update. Talk to you again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.